Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a really cool concept from the Dreamweaver series that pretty much redefines what we think of as evolution. We're talking about the metaphysics of territory. So, let me just start with this question. What if evolution wasn't about changing yourself to fit the world, but instead changing the world to fit you? It's a wild idea, right? It just flips our whole understanding of adaptation completely on its head. And the answer to that question? Well, it lies in what the source material calls the Capricorn principle. The idea is so simple, but absolutely revolutionary. Adapt the environment, not yourself. So, what exactly is the Capricorn system? Think of it less as some kind of biological thing and more like a super advanced strategic computer. It's a territory capturing system that crunches enemy data, runs simulations, and figures out the absolute best way to use your resources to take over territory, or as we're about to see, recapture it. This quote really captures the whole philosophy perfectly. If we can't change ourselves, then we must change our lands to suit our specific needs. See? We're shifting away from just passively surviving to actively and strategically engineering the world around us. Okay, so how does a process like this even work? It's not random, that's for sure. It's actually driven by two fundamental, almost metaphysical forces of change that are constantly at odds with each other. On one side, you've got wavelength harmony, which is all about building things up, making them stronger. And on the other side, you have wavelength interference, which does the exact opposite. It breaks things down, it nullifies them. It's this epic, fundamental battle between creation and destruction, and it's all powered by these metaphysical waves. So first up, let's look at the constructive side of things. Wavelength harmony, the power to build and reinforce. At its core, wavelength harmony happens when different waves just perfectly sync up. Imagine them oscillating or vibrating at the exact same frequency. Instead of getting in each other's way, they actually amplify one another, creating something way stronger and even granting some pretty unique new abilities. And these harmonic waves, they grant four key gifts, if you will. You get the power to expand your senses, to literally perceive energy data. You can conceptualize the mass of objects, generate protective force fields, and even reinforce the structure of materials to make them way, way tougher. Now, for every creative force, you know there has to be a destructive one. So let's pivot to its polar opposite, wavelength interference, which is all about the power to degrade and destroy. This is, simply put, the power to break things. It works by messing with a target's natural wave frequency, pushing it past what the source calls its material limitations threshold, until the thing just falls apart under the strain. It's basically weaponized resonance. And its uses are, you guessed it, purely destructive. We're talking about shattering buildings with high-frequency sound, causing small, localized earthquakes, or even disrupting entire armies by using certain frequencies to make their horses panic and create total chaos. What's so fascinating is how this metaphysical idea is actually grounded in things we can totally understand. You know, an opera singer shattering a glass with their voice? That's a perfect real-world example of destructive interference. The source material then applies that same principle to things like the fall of Jericho's walls or the story of Gideon scattering the Midianites. It's all about finding a target's weak spot, its resonant frequency, and just overwhelming it. So we've got the theory down, right? Harmony builds, interference breaks. But what does this actually look like on the battlefield? Let's get into a case study from the source, recapturing a fortress. Okay, so here's the situation. The mission is to rescue a bunch of captives from a fortress. The huge problem? They are completely, totally outnumbered. A direct fight would be an absolute suicide mission. The odds are just impossibly stacked against them, so they have to get creative. And this is where that core principle is just brilliantly illustrated. Instead of fighting the enemy, they decide to fight the territory. First, they use a tool called the Gemini system to analyze the fortress and map everything out. Second, they plant these metaphysical landmines to cut off every single route to the prison cells. Just like that, the guards are neutralized without a single punch thrown. And finally, they use other abilities to literally weaken the prison walls, letting the prisoners just break out on their own. The result was just a total victory, won entirely through environmental control. They didn't have to overpower the enemy, they just outsmarted the environment. They turned the fortress from the enemy's biggest strength into their greatest weakness.
So the crucial point to take away from all this is that the Capricorn system completely reframes evolution. It's not just some internal biological process. It can be an external, strategic action. It's about changing the world to fit what you need, and about turning the battlefield itself into your most powerful weapon.
And that leaves us with a final thought. We've seen how wavelength harmony builds and reinforces, and how wavelength interference breaks and destroys. So as you look at the world around you, which of these two forces do you think is the one that's really shaping our reality? Something to think about.